So today we are going to talk about modal verbs. And if you remember, we actually talked about modal verbs in the previous chapter. That was chapter 9. So most of this information is going to come from chapter 10. And if you haven't seen chapter 9's video yet or presentation yet, I would go back and check that first. But today we're going to talk about a couple of things about modal verbs. We're going to talk about degrees of certainty. And these will vary somewhat from the present and the past and the future. We're also going to talk about progressive forms of modals, and we're going to talk about ability with can and could. We'll talk about forms of would, such as would or would rather. And we're also going to talk about the right way to combine phrasal modals. So let's talk about degrees of certainty. If we are 100% certain about something, we do not need to use a modal verb. We will simply state our sentence with regular verbs. So we'll say something like, why isn't John in class? If we're 100% sure that we know why, we'll say, John is sick. We'll use is because we're 100% sure. If we're about 95% sure, we're pretty sure that we know why he's not there, we'll choose must. John must be sick. Why isn't he in class? Oh, he must be sick. He said he wasn't feeling well yesterday, and that's why he must not be here. If we're 50% sure or less, we'll choose a modal verb like may, might, or could. Why isn't John in class? I don't really know. He may be sick, or he might be at the beach, or he could be at the doctor's office right now. We really don't know. If we want to express degrees of certainty in the present but using the negative form, it looks a little bit different. So for example, why isn't Sam eating? Well, if we're 100% sure that we know why he isn't eating, we'll just state that. He is not hungry. He is not eating because he is not hungry. And by using this form, we're telling this listener we are 100% sure that we know why. If we're about 99% sure, we'll choose can't or couldn't. Why isn't Sam eating? Well, he can't be hungry. He just finished a huge bowl of spaghetti and an ice cream. I know he couldn't be hungry right now. If we're about 95% sure, we'll choose a verb like must. He must not be hungry. Why isn't Sam eating? Well, he must not be hungry. That's usually why he doesn't eat. If we're 50% sure or less than 50% sure, we're really just offering possibilities here. So we'll say, well, he may not be hungry, or he might not want the food that we have. So may and might are our options there. If we want to express degrees of certainty in the past, they look very similar to degrees of certainty in the present, but let's look at them. So why wasn't John in class? Again, if we're 100% sure, we'll say was, like John was sick. If we're 95% sure, we'll use must. But instead of must be, the form will change to must have been. And this is how we do our modal verbs in the past. The modal verb plus have plus the past participle. Why wasn't John in class yesterday? Well, he must have been sick. Or in normal pronunciation, he must have been sick. If we're 50% sure or less, we'll choose may, might, or could. Well, he may have been sick, or he could have been busy, or he might have been at the beach. Again, modal verb plus have plus the past participle, may have been. But the 50% sure or less goes with may, might, or could in the past. In the future, again, it looks similar, but there are a few differences here. If we are 100% certain about something, we will choose will. K will do well. Who will do well on the test? K. K will do well. We're 100% sure that K will do well. If we're about 90% sure, we can choose should or ought to. Kay should do well. Kay ought to do well. We're saying that we expect Kay to do well. Based on what we know, based on our evidence, whatever that may be, Kay should do well. We know that Kay has studied, so Kay should do well. If we're 50% sure or less, we'll choose something like may, might, or could. Well, Kay may do well. She usually studies, so she may do well. She might do well. She could do well. Again, this is very similar to how it looks in the present. He may not be. She might do, you know. For progressive forms of modals, we will choose the modal plus be plus the ing form of the main verb. And this will describe something that is in progress right now that we want to express our uncertainty about or obligation or expectation about something. So for example, we might say, shh, let's be quiet. Tom may be sleeping. We're not sure that he's sleeping, or we would say, shh, Tom is sleeping. But because we are about 50% sure that he may be sleeping, we'll choose may plus be, and here's our ing form of the verb. If we want to express something that was in progress at a time in the past, and we want to express our uncertainty or our expectation about that, then we'll choose a modal verb plus have been plus ing. So I might ask, well, why didn't Tom answer the phone yesterday? He may have been sleeping when I called. May, here's our modal verb, have been, and sleeping, may have been sleeping. And this can go with many other types of modal verbs. So if we want to express our expectation, well, what is Susie doing? I don't know, but she should be sleeping. I expect her to be sleeping. She should be sleeping. Now we're going to talk about ability with can and could. We use can to express physical ability. He can lift the box. He is physically able to lift the box. With skills, she can swim. She knows how to swim. We can also use can with possibility. If you're looking for shrimp, you can buy them at the farmer's market. We can also use can with permission. Well, we asked the teacher, and she said we can go early. We can go early. Now remember that permission with can is informal. If you want to be a little bit more formal with permission, you'll use a word like may. We may go early. The teacher informed us that we may leave early. Could, with reference to ability, is simply the past form of can. So if we want to express something that we could do, we used to be able to do, we'll use could. When I was a child, I could play all day. I was able to play all day. I didn't have any responsibilities, so I could play all day. Yesterday, Jen could lift the box, but Alice couldn't. So Jen was able to lift the box, Alice was not able to lift the box. You can also use this with skills. When Stephen was a child, he could play the violin. Now we're going to talk about would and would rather. When I was a child, my father used to read me stories. When I was a child, my father would read me stories. Both of these sentences reflect repeated actions in the past. Used to read. Every night he used to read me stories about princesses and dragons, or every night he would read me stories. He would read me stories about princesses and dragons, whatever. Both of these sentences are essentially the same. However, we can also use used to. Notice this used is in the past form and it stays that way, does not change. When I was a child, I used to live in Texas. Used to live in Texas. This is a situation that existed in the past. It's not a repeated action. So I cannot use would, but I can use used to. We can use would rather to express preference. I would rather go for a walk than watch a movie. Notice that the verb that follows would rather and the verb that follows than are both in base form. I would rather go for a walk than watch a movie. If you are using two verbs that are the same, I would rather study French than biology. You could say, I would rather study French than study biology, or I would rather study French than biology. So if you're using the same verb, the exact same main verb twice, you may omit it the second time if you like. We use would rather not to describe things we would prefer not to do. So I could say, I would rather not tell you my age. In the past, we would use would rather plus have plus the past participle to express something that we would have preferred to do. And the implication is that it didn't happen. So I enjoyed the party, but to be honest, I would rather have gone to the music festival. So in this statement, I'm telling you that I didn't go to the music festival, although I would have preferred that over the party. The progressive form of would rather is would rather plus be plus ing. Right now, I would rather be lying on a beach than sitting in class. With combining modals and phrasal modals, the main rule to remember is that a modal cannot be followed immediately by a modal verb, another modal, not the same. So you cannot use will and can together. Jane will can help you is incorrect. If you want to express these two meanings, you have to change this one, the second one, to a phrasal modal. Jane will be able to help you. Notice you can't just change the first one. You have to change the second one. You can use a modal first and then a phrasal modal, but not the other way around. If you want to use the meanings of will and must together, will and obligation or necessity, you cannot use must, you must use have to. So for example, you will have to pick her up. You can also use this in the negative meaning, but again, the regular modal must go first. Tom won't be able to help you tomorrow. And please note that you can also combine a phrasal modal with a phrasal modal. They can combine together, just not modals and modals. So you can say Tom won't be able to help you tomorrow, or Tom isn't going to be able to help you tomorrow. Both of these work just fine.